Welcome back to the DLLS Mavs podcast. Once again, appreciate you joining us here as Cooper Flagg continues to make history after dropping 49 points in the game against the Charlotte Hornets. Cooper Flagg continuing to make his Rookie of the Year campaign stand out, even in the battle that he had with Kon Knueppel. Joining us today, friend of the DLLS Mavs podcast, of course, former Dallas Maverick and our All-City Network teammate and ESPN in-game and studio analyst who will be on the call when the Mavericks take on the Rockets on Saturday night. He is, of course, Tim Legler. Tim, what's going on?
Hey, what's up? How we doing?
Doing well. I want to read something that says, quote, "At the same time, despite losing a tough one, the Dallas Mavericks are consistently one of the hardest playing teams you will watch. Cooper Flagg tonight. What special talent and competitiveness he possesses. Really looking forward to seeing him in the Mavs Saturday night versus Houston." That coming from one Tim Legler himself. Let's start there. What did you see and make of the 49-point performance that Cooper Flagg had?
Well, first of all, I think, obviously you get 49 points. You're going to do that in a lot of ways. So I think for me, that was the first thing. The variety of ways in which he scored. I mean, he did a little bit of everything. Finished running the wing in transition with authority, handled the ball in the middle of the break, took it to the rim. Pull up threes off the dribble. And of course, he's always mixing in the mid-range stuff and those really difficult runners and one-handed shots that he's sort of mastered in the paint. So I think that's probably what jumped out to me the most. Just like it looked like, despite the fact he's 19, it looked like a very polished, seasoned, veteran, big-time scorer that we see in this league. And there's a list of guys that you look at that have been doing this for a long time that are in that, that 25 point per game type players. Like, he looked last night that sure of himself, and the variety of ways in which he scored was just special. And that is really, to me, what's continued to blossom in his game. I think, early on, I think he probably was, game's coming at you fast. You're trying to figure things out. He was playing point guard more, so he had that on his mind and on his plate. They've kind of just unleashed him to go just be a basketball player and a wing scorer. And he's so good with the ball and so good with his hesitations and start-stop and all the stuff he can do to get you off balance and not be able to keep him in front. It's opened up everything to him as a scorer now. So you saw it all on display last night. I mean, that for me is basically an encapsulation of everything you've seen out of Cooper Flagg this year, but all in one game. And it was a very, very special night. And by the way, Kon Knueppel was pretty special himself. So those two guys and friends and former teammates at Duke, man, both of those guys put an incredible show to let you know the league is in really good hands.
For sure. Of course, Cooper Flagg making history in a number of areas. One statistic, becoming the first rookie since 1984, the 1984-85 season, to have at least 49 points and 10 rebounds at a game. The person who did it, Michael Jordan. So that gives you an idea of some of the historic nature at which he performed in that game against Charlotte. And, speaking of all-time greats, your ESPN colleague Brian Windhorst had something very interesting to say, on Friday on First Take, and he said that Cooper Flagg is the most complete rookie that we've seen since LeBron James. And I wanted to get your take on that because you've covered the league for a long time. You've seen the likes of LeBron James, Kobe Bryant, and others. Where does Cooper Flagg's, game and his maturity of his game and the ability that he has, where does that fit? Is he the most complete rookie that we've seen since LeBron James?
I think that's a pretty good call. I mean, there are guys, and I'd have to look at the entire list. There are guys that have been, drafted in between the two of those guys that maybe excelled in different areas. But Cooper Flagg, when you talk about everything that he does at a high level. He defends, he handles it. He's a good passer, plays really hard. He can score all over the floor. His three-point shooting is still streaky, but, I think on those nights when he gets stuff going early, he becomes a better three-point shooter. He just gets more confident in it. He doesn't think about it as much. He lets it fly. So I think it's a fair thing to say about him when you talk about the all-around game. I'm sure you could go through, those 22 draft classes, however many there were, and find guys in there that maybe did something better than Cooper Flagg. But when you look at everything that he can do, I think it's really high praise, and I think it's deserving, and I think tells you a lot about what Cooper Flagg has done to open everybody's eyes. That, he was just ready sooner. Some guys, it takes a couple years. Like Cooper Flagg was ready immediately to have these kind of moments, to embrace this kind of stage, not fazed by it. He expected this out of himself for a long time, and he wanted to be the number one pick, and he wanted to live up to it, and you could tell he takes responsibility very seriously.
And those 49 points that he scored against Charlotte broke the Mavericks rookie record held by Mark Aguirre, who was in the house having his number 24 jersey retired on a Thursday night. And, of course, Cooper Flagg making that history in front of a lot of legends, including Dirk Nowitzki, the GOAT, if you will, of the Dallas Mavericks. I want to ask you this because you've watched him for a while, Cooper Flagg, in terms of his development and growth, whether it be at high school at Mount Verde to going to Duke for the 1 year, leading them to the Final Four. What has changed and matured most about his game from the time that he stepped onto campus, at Duke as a freshman to now the time of being more than halfway through his first NBA season in your mind?
I just think it's his ability to command the basketball and against any matchup and go initiate the offense. Like, it's one thing when you're at Duke and you're playing with, a bunch of other All-Americans and a bunch of 5-star recruits, and he was clearly stood out, but it's also like this platform. A lot of those guys kind of know you're only going to be there for a year. It's a little bit of a different dynamic. They're also trying to showcase. It's like a little bit different. This, he steps onto an NBA floor, a bunch of grown men, bunch of very accomplished players on the roster. It's going to take you a little bit of time before you can just go, hey, the ball is going to become a magnet to you. And that's what I see in Cooper Flagg more than anything. The ball finds him. And it's not just, when he's running a wing or to give him an isolation in the half court. It's to go break down a defense with the intent on causing, a communication and a traffic issue for the defense that will lead to something good, whether it's him or somebody else. So to me, that's just really where I've seen the most growth, just how confident he is to go get the basketball. And he knows very clearly like what he wants to do with it in manipulating defenses. That's something that typically takes a few years for an NBA player to get that comfortable when you're that young and you've got veterans on your team and older guys on your team, and yet you're the guy that wants to go get the basketball and be the guy that's sort of the conductor. That, I think, is where he has grown the most.
And you can start to see his ability to process information. You watch the game on Thursday, the Charlotte Hornets were shading into his left. He's like, okay, if you're going to do that, I can still go to my right and still be able to finish through traffic and finish through contact. And his ability to diagnose what he's seeing on the floor, how common or uncommon really is that for someone of his age to be able to not only diagnose, process, but in real time make those kinds of adjustments given what he's able to bring from a skill set standpoint?
Yeah, extremely rare. And I think what I noticed about Cooper Flagg really early, watching him at Duke, was he has a tremendous anticipation on both ends of the floor. Sometimes if the game's happening quickly, you're reacting to what's coming at you. You react to what the guy that you're guarding is doing, and you're always sort of a half a step behind. Offensively, you don't anticipate where the next defender is going to react, which tells you where the ball has to go or where your dribble is going to take you. He sort of processes it very fast, and his anticipation for what is going to happen if he is able to take the basketball here on a drive, if he is watching the basketball on defense as a weak side defender, like his anticipation of where he needs to be next is uncommon. And that gives him probably a great sense of calm out there because he's seeing things really transpire ahead of time. And that makes you more comfortable and more relaxed rather than just feel like everything is happening so quick and you're just constantly on your heels reacting. And that's very common for a lot of rookies. So for him to have that quality, that trait, he's just got maturity beyond his years. I mean, that's really what it comes down to.
And he's been that way in the clutch. 16 of 25 this year on field goal attempts to tie or take the lead in the final 5 minutes in fourth quarter and overtime, leading the NBA in field goal percentage in that department at 64% during the clutch this year. That's a hell of a deal for a kid who turned from 18 to 19 already to be that good in the clutch this year. As we finish up here, I just wanted to get your thoughts just overall, not only on the game in terms of the Mavericks and the Rockets, but just the overall rookie class has been unbelievable this year, whether it's Cooper Flagg, Kon Knueppel, VJ Edgecombe in Philadelphia. it's been an unbelievable class this year. What have you made of that as we look ahead to the Mavericks taking on the Rockets?
Yeah, it has been incredible. And, guys have figured out a way quickly to impress their coaching staffs, franchises that like they're ready now, like for big roles, starters, heavy minutes off the bench, a lot of responsibility on offense. Guys that are also able to contribute in other areas besides just shooting the basketball or scoring the basketball. Like these are guys that are showing you they can be very complete players. So this draft class is special already. We can see that, but I think really your only context you can have for a rookie class is years down the road. When you revisit it and you look back on it 5-6 years from now, you pull the list of names up because there's going to be other guys that are going to join the group. Maybe, you don't reach the heights of a Cooper Flagg or a Harper or Edgecombe. Maybe you don't get that high, but there are going to be major impact players 5-6 years down the road that maybe right now aren't getting as much time because that's a normal trajectory for a rookie. So that's really when you got to put this into proper context is, down the road a little bit, you're able to look back on it. And now you've got a much more comprehensive look at what the totality of the class did rather than just a few guys at the top. But there's no doubt it's special. Even if you just looked at those top four guys, if you just looked at Knueppel and Edgecombe and Harper and Flagg, you're like, man, all four of these teams hit it. Like they got, it's really difficult to recover if you miss a pick in the top 3, 4, 5 in the draft because you went through a lot to have that pick. So if you don't get that right for whatever reason, it can set you back as a franchise to think that, you got four guys there at the top and they got them all right. They're all hits. They're all going to be big time players in this league. Pretty special.
It's going to be a lot of fun to watch these rookies continue to develop, and it's going to be a lot of fun to listen to our guy Tim Legler on the call as the Mavericks take on the Rockets in a primetime showdown in H-Town on Saturday night as Cooper Flagg looks to continue his fantastic run during his rookie year, setting records night in and night out, dropping 49 in the game against the Charlotte Hornets. Tim, it's always good to see you, my friend. Appreciate the time. Look forward to your call, hanging out with Richard Jefferson and the legendary Mike Breen on the call on Saturday night. Look forward to seeing you, hearing you there, man. Appreciate the time as always.
Yeah, appreciate you having me.